Music and words are pure. We had a document for the ages. We knew that we had something that had never been made before, and if we were true to our instincts and our skill sets that were ever expanding, both in terms of sound process, in terms of film editing, in terms of creating graphic displays of all of this film, there were some people who were editing documentary, and there were some people who were editing music. And there were some people who were doing crossover. Luckily, Thelma, brilliant vision, brilliant technology, brilliant personality, she was able to be the marriage counselor for all of the various pieces that were being done under her supervision. We knew that we had something that had never, ever been done before in the world and has not been done since. Look at the array of faces. Look at the variety of people who had trekked to this spot to be a part and say, it is I too. I've made the trek to be part of this group. Count me as one person. That's what it was. I mean, you could see it on all of their faces, the number of people who come to you now, come to me now, and say, I was there. I was there. But there were only 500,000 of them. It is the movie that captured it. And it was our insistence on the notion that we were dealing with a huge Magna Carta of the 1960s, and we were going to put it out in front of a global audience, and we would hope that it would change, that it would justify all the shit that we had gone through in the 1960s in order to come to this point. The 1960s were the dawn of a new age. JFK said, this is a new frontier. We have things that we have got to do in order to make our future better and brighter than it has ever been before. And we'd already had a couple of civil rights cases in the 1950s. So we began to appreciate the fact that we had sinned in this country at the beginning with slavery. In our movie, they had put Richie Havens at the top, and they had put Jimi Hendrix at the back end, and they became the bookends for the message that we were able to capture in the movie. So were we dealing with civil rights? You bet we were. And were we thinking about it? Yes, of course. Could we capture it? Could we put it out in front of people? Could we make them realize, appreciate what they might have been suppressing all of their lives, and indeed they could be welcomed into this? It was obviously not a political movie, and yet it was a revolutionary movie. People bring to a movie their own ethos, and they look at a movie differently than somebody who is sitting next to them. Nobody had any idea that this is what it would become. Least of all, Warner Brothers. I mean, they had practically no idea that we were going to drop a hand grenade into the music business, into the communications business, into the marketing business. It was revolutionary in concept, revolutionary in design, revolutionary in terms of content, revolutionary in terms of its display of the experience, and the fact that it had captured as many disparate kind of points of view and personalities as it did, and that it did it with art and with happenstance. We were sensitive to being on this cutting edge of how to make a film very different than films had been made before. I think people in the late 1960s who came to Max's farm were naive, young people who trusted other people. There was not a multitude of ulterior motives that somebody could have in asking you a simple question about why are you here. It was just innate kind of curiosity and simplicity. I think it's naivete. We welcomed other people. We did not think that we would be on Instagram or Facebook or something else like that. It was, oh, you're curious about me. I will give you the best part of my soul that I can. Here it is. Take it. Okay? It's a blessing. It's trust. The books that have been written about it, the still photographs capture far more than we were able to, because a still photographer only has his camera and his lens, or hers. They were able to wander around and get all kinds of stuff that we couldn't get. So we're only a part of it. I think we're the main part of it, and for 30-odd million people, I think that we still... But in order to get a really full impression of this, you've got to be able to read and look at a whole batch of other material in addition to watching our film. I think what we tried to do with the film was to create as best a biography of a group of people who were only 500,000. I fought so hard for the Tom Taggart sequence that when we were in the dubbing stage with the sequence there, we could not, with all of the refinements and all of the plugs and all of the whistles, we still couldn't hear him clearly. And we were saying, we'll get him out. No, we can't get him out. We got to keep him in. Subtitles. Subtitles. Duh. He had a son there at Woodstock. He had a son in Vietnam, both of whom were represented by him as a dad. It was inconsequential what he was doing for a job, right? But what he was doing was he was being a father. And he was filled with the kind of respect that I think imbued everybody who was on the site. In essence, what I thought we were talking about is a group of people that maybe numbered 50 million people or beyond that. People who loved to challenge the political hierarchy with what their point of view was. We were used to protesting, used to being in the streets, used to being tear gassed, used to being on black marches, used to supporting women, used to fighting this war. We had all done this at one point or another in our lives in the 1960s. We, as a film team, brought that experience to the making of this film. And we hope that the film, would be this incredibly deep immersion in communitarianism, so that the rest of the people could see to themselves and look at themselves and say, we can do that. We could go forward. We can be respectful of other people. That's what the film was about. Communitarian is something I learned in the woods of Maine, pulling on a rope, lighting an ember at a council fire every Sunday night at a camp, so that we would all, in a haven, look up at the stars and say, we are part of this universe, and that we have an obligation to each other in this circle to respect each other and to deal with little issues of how do we get along. Duh. We're all only people. That's who we are. We have a relationship with the natural world. We have a relationship with the universe. It's all about the sky and us. Our forefathers, thousands of years ago, would lie on their backs and look at the heavens, and the heavens would become a mirror of their lives. And there were no buildings, so the heavens and people's noses were right on top of one another. This is the primitive people sort of vision of what the world is like. I had that. I got that as a young man. So when I use communitarianism, I mean we're all pulling on a rope, trying to keep an ember alive, and the ember is the ember of respect and hope. I think that Jimi Hendrix is still playing in heaven his version of the national anthem. I want us as people united in this country and around the world to cause Jimmy to reconsider how he plays the national anthem in the future. Somebody like Colin Kaepernick is an example of someone who takes a knee as an example of, I object, I protest, I suggest a change, not with guns and fires or bombs or hand grenade or water hoses or walls, but by communicating one-to-one across a table, bridging divides, narrowing gaps, bringing people together. We have 30 million children in this country who are living on the edge of poverty. There's so many people who are homeless. We're a big enough country. We have a big enough spirit. The people who amassed at Woodstock in August of 1969 are capable, if they look forward and bridge their arms and say, like Wavy Gravy, we got to keep feeding each other, that we can change what's going on in this country. And I hope that our film will continue to be that accelerator, that engine, that motivator that will enable people to do that.